Good evening. Good evening. It being it's 5 p.m. and a quorum being met, I'll call to order the October 7th meeting of the Plymouth Select Board. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of the Select Board after first notifying the chair, subject to any reasonable requirements of the chair, so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair will inform other attendees of any recordings. We don't have any attendees at the moment, but we're presently aware only of the folks from the local scene filming this. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and signed into law on March 28, 2025. This meeting will be conducted via remote means and in person. Members of the board are here in person. Members may join remotely as well. Any member of the public who wishes to watch this meeting may do so by watching the local scene on cable access channels Comcast 9 or Verizon 47. You may also participate through the local scene website or via the Zoom link that's on the agenda. The first item on our agenda is an executive session. The Select Board will hold an executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Clause 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the board declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. I so do declare I will entertain a motion to enter executive session in regards to 132 Warren Ave, Fraggle Inc., which is Sandy's Restaurant, for a lease extension. Is there a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
It's been moved by Ms. Iaquinto and seconded by Mr. Cohan. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Cohan?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The board will be in executive session until approximately 6 p.m. Thank you for joining us here tonight. The board is back from executive session. We'll get started on our agenda, but first, please join the board in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First item on our agenda tonight is a public hearing for the alteration of premises from SMG Group Incorporated, doing business as Black Lantern Tavern, holder of an annual all-alcohol restaurant license, 1 Greenside Way North. Saheen Coulson, the manager, is here. I will first read the language for the hearing. In accordance with Chapter 133 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held at Plymouth Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts, on Tuesday, October 7th, 2025, at 6 p.m. to consider the application for an alteration of premises from SMG Group Incorporated, doing business as Black Lantern Tavern, holder of an annual all-alcohol restaurant license at 1 Greenside Way North. Saheen Gulson, the manager again. Description of the premises will be as follows: 4,600 square feet of indoor space and 1,400 square feet of outdoor space. Indoor space is comprised of function spillover room, main dining area, bar area, kitchen, and bathroom, 9 entrances exits, adding 1,000 square feet of indoor space adjacent to the existing restaurant, connected by a doorway, and 400 square feet of outdoor seasonal space. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should plan to attend this meeting. I'll allow the petitioner to come up, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about the project.
Hi again, Saheen Gulson from Black Lantern Tavern. In that said address, we had 2 restaurants side by side under one roof, Black Lantern Tavern as well as Trails and Bistro. For administrative and operational reasons, we wanted to consolidate the 2 businesses under one entity. So square footage of the business has not changed, it's just both businesses now is one. And they are connected with a couple of doorways and entrances and exits, which we've been inspected for and approved for by the fire department and building department.
Thank you. Are there questions from board members? So I assume you're going to be closing the bistro?
So
portion of the
bistro as a business will be closed, and it will, the same room that we used to serve dinners and lunches will be a spillover room, overflow room, and also a function room for small baby showers, birthdays, and what have you.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Is there anyone other than the petitioner who would like to speak in favor of this project?
Steve Lyden, Precinct 17. I have visited the tavern many, many times. It's always been a fantastic, the staff has been good, the food's been good, and I would highly recommend this. It's a great place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Al Donato, Precinct 17. I live in Red Brook. I live 2 blocks away. I support this. From what I recall, there's been no incidents, no problem, and obviously it's been an addition to the community, and I'm sure many of you have visited. If not, you should visit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room who would like to speak on behalf of this project? Is there anyone online, Jade? Very good. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak against this request? Anyone online? Great. I will declare the hearing closed and bring it back to the board. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the alteration of premises.
Mr. Canty has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right. The next item on our agenda are licenses. We have a one-day wine and malt license. We have common victualler, new owner, and an Eversource utility petition. What is the wish of the board?
I move to approve them as a group.
Excellent. Ms. Iaquinto makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Canty seconds. Is there discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous. Move on to administrative notes. There are 6 administrative notes. Wish of the board.
Move them as listed.
Mr. Quintal makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Is there discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. We'll move into the agenda proper. We'll start with the Plymouth Affordable Housing Trust Policy. We're joined by Mr. Lee Hartman, or we were at one point. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Come on up.
So I think this is fairly straightforward. There are a few red lines for the policy that the board had approved previously. And basically what they are is removing the director position from actually a voting member and making the director or the assistant director responsible staff for attending. And then you'd see on item 16, there are a number of things that were included, but there are things that this trust does not do. It was language that came right out of the state law that we had put in, and as we looked at it, that's really not necessary, so we're excluding that. So really just a change of eliminating things that this trust doesn't do, as well as making the Director of Planning Development staff support not a voting member.
Any questions for Mr. Hartman?
Just a general comment. Obviously, we had a discussion some time back about the Housing Trust, and as Lee has outlined, the updating that we needed to do, and some of the concerns that the Planning Department had in terms of its previous administrative support of the Housing Trust. So I want to thank that department for its input and its guidance in updating these records. They recently reorganized, and they'll be working with town staff to begin reintroducing the Plymouth Housing Trust to the community. So thank you very much for the Planning Department and Lee Hartman's due diligence and town council.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Any questions? Wish of the board?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Mr. Cohen makes a motion that we approve the updates to the Plymouth Affordable Housing Trust Policy. Is there a second?
Second?
Mr. Quintal seconds. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
And Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes. It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to Article 4, Capital Recommendations, Item 9A9, the Visitor Center Addition. We're joined by Mr. Brindisi, who will give us more information.
Good evening, Derek Brindisi, Town Manager. So for tonight's discussion relative to Article 4, Capital Recommendations, this discussion relates to the Visitor Center addition. So as you recall, Mr. Carl Anderson, our Facilities Director, presented a capital request to the Select Board about a month ago. During his presentation, he outlined a capital improvement project that would put an addition on the Visitor Center on Water Street. It would then provide for a handicapped accessible ramp that would lead to 2 handicapped accessible restrooms. The total cost for that project is about $578,000. During his presentation, he mentioned $200,000 grant from VSB, an additional $200,000 application to MOT, which is State Agency Mass Office of Travel and Tourism. During that discussion, you made a motion, and it was supported, to supplement the $400,000 grants by an additional $178,000 for the total sum of $578 for the project cost. So after that vote moved forward, it went to Advisory and Finance Committee, who heard the same presentation, except this time they voted for the $378,000. It appears that they were worried that if the grant were not to be received by Mott, the project wouldn't move forward. So the question that's before you this evening is, do you, as a board, plan to make a motion to your original vote of 178, knowing that in the Advisory and Finance Committee recommendations, right now the motion that will go to town meeting is for the full 378?
Mr. Canty?
So I made the original motion to reduce it from the 378 request to 178 on the basis that we may or may not get this grant. We may or may not know by town meeting whether we're going to get this grant. That going from 178 to 378 is a significant increase on a percentage basis. And I think the total project cost is very high for what is being accomplished already. I understand that there are needs in that area and that the visitor center is important, particularly to tourists and others passing through or spending their day within the community that are not from here, and it also serves a purpose for anybody going to bathrooms down in that area. But I think that increasing it by that amount, I am uncomfortable with, because I would rather, thinking it when I made that motion was if we get the grant, and we can make that difference with the grant, that's okay. But authorizing the whole 378, meaning it would go forward with or without that grant, is a very different ask. And I wanted, if we still wanted to do that project without the grant, I wanted further town meeting review of that, as opposed to it's not a blank check, but giving either option, just because of that huge increase from 178 to 378, a $200,000 increase is substantial. So that was my thinking then, and that is still my thinking now. FinCom can make whatever determination they'd like to make. They are not beholden to our decisions, nor are we beholden to theirs. And town meeting can choose to follow whichever advice and guidance it feels prudent. They are themselves a deciding body with the agency of their own. That would be my preference. Thank you.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Just to add to that, I think part of that discussion also centered around what you could do with the budget that they would have in hand, and if there was any incremental changes that could be made to improve accessibility, the size of the lobby area, for example, because without that $200,000 grant, if that doesn't come in, that's still about $400,000 they would have in hand, unless my math is wrong. But I remember hearing assurances that, we could go back and look at plans that might work better with the budget that was available.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly, so, again, that would amount to, without the grant, the Mott grant, so we'd have about $378,000 to go back to the engineering and see what can be constructed with $378,000. I can tell you, based upon the proposals that I have seen, engineering design and project management from Weston and Sampson is $90,000 alone for that project.
Mr. Cohen?
So are we engaging the town manager in questions, or are we discussing this amongst ourselves, or?
Happy to let you do either.
Okay. So tonight you were advising us that FinCom is going to recommend 378. We have recommended 178. And you're summarizing what you were explaining to us is that we may or may not get this grant. And if we were not to get the grant, what would be the effect if we didn't get the grant? We'd be looking at 178.
Yeah,
the costs that we
coupled
have.
with the $200,000 from VSB, so you'd have a total sum of 378 to do something there. Probably wouldn't meet the vision that was originally thought of.
All right, well, I mean, I look at this building on our waterfront, this is a major point of interest. Our waterfront is a major attraction. People are coming and visiting our waterfront. We have one of the more spectacular harbors on the South Shore. We need to showcase that in the strongest capability. Having ADA compliant bathrooms and a configuration of bathrooms that are easier for people to get in and out of with their families when they're parking and getting out, especially when you see the numerous different age groups from young family and children to older people and people with mobility issues. You want to be as accommodating as possible. The building's been there now for, 40 years, and it needs to be addressed. I understand the reservations you have about the costs associated with this, but then when you look at what they're proposing, is that we're going to get a reconfiguration of access to accommodate the bathrooms, and also in addition to bring larger amounts of services to the people that are visiting Plymouth, directions of where to go. I've always noticed the building's there. It seems to be underutilized. This is an opportunity where it's supporting the local businesses because they're stressed out, and you hear from them, people who are visiting Plymouth, asking directions, asking to use bathrooms. So we really need to support the businesses on our waterfront. We have to, obviously be supportive to the tourist community that's working on this issue and to the people that experience Plymouth. So, I feel like we should be following the lead of the Finance Committee and fully supporting this project. So it's kind of wait to hear the debate of the board, but I feel that's how I look at the scenario on the waterfront as it relates to this building.
Mr. Canty? Being a lifelong resident, I don't frequent the visitor center that often, but my recollection is that you currently have to walk through the visitor center to get to the bathrooms, right?
That's correct.
And this is providing a hallway with access where to the right you go into the visitors center with the brochures and the information desk, and to the left is the bathrooms.
That's correct.
So that could be potentially problematic because to me, because you have like bathrooms that are not being, who's going in and out of those bathrooms is not being monitored. And while many people will use bathrooms for their purposes as bathrooms, some people use bathrooms for other purposes, such as recreational drug use, or I have taken the MBTA and found an unhoused individual using a sink as a shower, which I understand that he has needs and such, but it's a confronting sight to see it when it occurs in that site. So there could be unintended consequences to that, since we're not currently addressing some of those other issues in as a humane a way as I would like. And I think leaving some of those things unaddressed could have unintended collateral consequences in that area that could be detrimental to the visitor experience as opposed to beneficial to it. And so I also don't know right now, because you have to go through the visitor center to access the bathrooms, you're sort of forced to interact with the brochures and the information desk. So you're exposed to that.
And the employees working there as well.
Right. But if it's just like a public bathroom, like the DCR bathrooms by the Mayflower, in terms of how you choose to interact with it, then you might actually get less benefit out of the visitors center portion of it, depending on how the population uses it. But I just think, considering those, I don't have an easy solution for those collateral consequences. But given some of the concerns that are potentially presented, I just think those are worth considering the possible negative outcomes, whether they've been anticipated or not.
Mr. Quintal, then Mr. Cohen.
Debbie?
Sure.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that when I visited the visitor center and had a chance to speak to the staff, they too were concerned about the reconfiguration of the bathrooms, because they did feel that if they were only accessible from the outside of the building, that they would lose that opportunity to catch people. as they came and went from the bathroom, passing through the lobby. And they felt that that was going to be a missed opportunity for all of us, you know, for all of the folks that rely on those services being sold through the visitor center. So they were concerned about that. And then we were also chatting about, you know, we were thinking about what we're going to be doing with Memorial Hall and other areas in downtown, and would that be a better spot for a visitor center? So I remember those were some of the other discussions we had when we made that decision.
Is it possible that this could be, instead of a wall, a roll-up gate, like you see at a mall, so that the storefront could stay open, so that when the visitor center's open, they're still engaging with the folks who are walking through to open the bathroom, to use the bathroom?
Certainly that could be built into the design. Up until this point, everything that has been brought forward has been really conceptual ideas. So I'm sure something that could be brought into the design aspect.
It could address some of the concerns that my colleagues have. Mr. Quintel and then Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, at first I wasn't going to support this for my own selfish reasons. And those are, I have a bigger vision for what I think it should be and can be. And when we have Memorial Hall, that's what we're going to be looking at, regardless of what we do there. It would be my, hope and vision that it gets moved up there with functional and ongoing bathrooms, a board meeting room, with all the TV and the advertisements on the wall. And hopefully all the business people down the waterfront and through town will come together and have a day pass for people that are coming here, that they can go have dinner, or they can go on one of the boats or do something. I mean, to really promote the town as they should. At first, you had a grant, and then I don't know where that is, and so that's what the difference is here, $200,000, correct, Lee? Okay. So knowing how long it takes to do things in town, and even though I have a big idea, it's no use not doing the right thing. And the building needs help. And, I also sit on the VSB, and Lee and I had a friendly exchange because I didn't see plans, and she's provided that and explanation. So, regardless of what happens at Memorial Hall, but for an example, and this is not to throw stones, but I saw somewhere that the school committee's doing $10 million worth of capital projects. And the town never spends that, the town side here never spends that kind of money. So I am going to vote for it. It's time we started taking care of our town buildings, just like the schools. And this is just a little drop in the bucket for what can be later. So now I have all my information, and I'm going to vote for it.
Selectman Quintel brings up a good point about the time frame and the logistics of the location of this and what might possibly happen at Memorial Hall. But it takes me back to the original discussion many years ago when they were trying to put something. They were very interested at the time. This is, this is quite a while ago, back in the 80s. There was a little tiny building up on Park Street by Depot Square where you went in and got your wheel watch cards and things of that nature. That was our visitor center. It was like a shed. So there was talk about going to the Rotary where Al's Pizza is and buying an old gas station and tearing it down, building a major visitor center. That was not acted on. And then eventually this area was selected because of its location. Yes, Memorial Hall's on the other side of a pretty big parking lot. On a hot day, getting up there would be difficult, even if we start to accommodate at that location waterfront activities. This is strategically located between two crosswalks at the Rotary. So the proximity that it's in for bypasses is very convenient for someone to utilize. So I think that it's not a misinvestment in focusing on this building for the here and now. Thinking about the future and what might happen on the other side of the parking lot will only complement this, but never replace the logistical convenience of this location. And as Selectman Golden has indicated in the town manager, we're in a conceptual design on this building right now. So obviously, they're hearing concerns about people coming and going from the bathroom, and staff seeing them going and coming from the bathroom. That I see here in the design, you have the bathrooms, the door, there's the addition and the door. Maybe that wall isn't there, and it's open, so staff sees people coming in, and they're greeted properly, and they use the bathroom, and they come out, and they can either go back to their car or pick up some information. So, like the town manager said, we're in an early stage of design, and those concerns about people coming and going from this location and staff not seeing them can be probably addressed in the final design. So I do think that, the points that have been brought up by the board members are very relevant, but at the same time, I think we need to take care of our buildings, as Mr. Quintal indicated, and also make sure that we have the infrastructure on the waterfront to support all the activities that go on in our waterfront.
Ms. Lagwinto?
I think that what I'm struggling with a little bit here is that the cost that we're looking at here is based on the design that we have in hand. So if we went through a process of redesigning it based on what we'd like it to be, what's that going to do to the cost in the end? And I'm just really concerned that we get into this quagmire of, like the money pit, that we don't really know what we're buying here. And that's really what my concern is with this whole thing. I just don't know what we're buying.
So if you look at the design they have, there's a simple wall between where the staff works and the bathroom. So you'd be talking about opening that ending up. So opening it up, so we're asking for less, not more. So just to open up that area.
So can we just have a conversation? Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. So no, I totally get that, but we don't know that that's possible or what that's going to cost.
Right.
Like hopefully there was some engineering that went into this original design, although it seems a little light to me in terms of making a $600,000 decision on this. It doesn't seem to make sense and now we're talking about perhaps redesigning it. So I would love to have a new visitor center. Don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to a new visitor center.
Right.
I just feel like the funding and the design are a little bit lacking.
Yeah, we're not proposing to redesign it. 99.9% of this design stays intact. If you look at that page, you can see that there is a dividing area. There's already a door existing to carry people from the bathroom area into the lobby. So this is the area in which I'm focused on. So I'm not suggesting we redesign it or encroach on the design in a manner which would drive up the costs. I think what we're asking for is just opening up an area. However they choose to do that with a glass window or something else, or as Mr. Golden indicated, a pull-down screen at the mall, something to that element. But that's what I was suggesting, not a total reason, not a heavy redesign.
Just to be clear, the area labeled VC, maybe this is Derek or Lee, the area labeled VC, where there's an opening in the wall on the right-hand side where the addition is going to go, that's the main entrance to the building right now, correct?
Yeah, that's the existing.
So then, the wall that's between VC and H, which is the new hallway, is the existing wall, correct?
There is an existing wall that would be the common wall between VC and H.
So it could, to Deb's point, have a structural function, that wall.
Yeah, right now, if you were to visit that section, there's HVAC conduit that's in that space that's all going to have to be relocated in order to make that hall.
Okay. So there's some considerable construction going on in that hallway space.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, I just think there's too many unknowns to authorize, because then there's unknowns to the design and there's unknowns to the amount, because we don't know if we're going to get the 200,000. So I'm okay with a certain amount of unknowns in a project like this, but I think introducing more of them is not in our best interest when maybe if the grant doesn't go through and some of these, there needs to be a redesign consideration, that can all be worked out in preparation for this being moved in April, where it's more definite and less in flux. So I still think sticking with our original recommendation at this time, based on the information before us, makes the most sense, because I can live with some of these unknowns at the 178 price point, but the potential of a 378 price point is a very substantial increase over 178 still, and because it's like buying a mystery box in some regards, and I just am uncomfortable with some of the mystery there. So I'm still going to stick with the original recommendation, but I am interested to see how my colleagues wrestle with the topic.
Derek, is there a time-sensitive nature to this request?
No.
Okay. If we were to return to the 378 number, and some of the suggestions we're making cost more, they'd have to come back to us, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Unless there was alternative source of funding found.
Town meeting's going to hear the 378 regardless of what we decide here tonight?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're just
Yeah, so-
talking philosophy at this point, right?
Well, no, because there's been occasions where the Select Board and Finance Committee do not agree on a topic. And in those circumstances, in order for the Select Board's voice to be heard, you would have to make a motion. And so that's the question that's in front of you tonight. Do you plan on making a motion to the effect that you had originally taken a month ago when you heard this article?
So our motion, if we choose, would be to make a motion at town meeting to reduce Advisory and Finance's recommendation.
That's correct.
If we don't do that, town meeting will hear the 378 regardless.
That's all they'll hear, unless a town meeting member makes a motion. But we have our motions meeting tomorrow morning, and I don't believe I've seen a motion to reduce the 378.
I mean, I'm happy to, if we stick with the current recommendation, to make that motion. And we have the ability to make motions at town meeting, just not to vote on them. So if we stuck with what we wanted to, and historically, the board, when the board has disagreed with FinCom or with another entity, they have spoken about it and let town meeting, I think, obviously, town meeting is the one that makes the ultimate decision. So, if they're comfortable with these ambiguities in ways that I'm not, then it is what it is. But I just feel, I would feel better without that level of financial uncertainty on top of the other uncertainties.
Mr. Cohen?
So again, I think it's important that we get back to the focus is getting appropriate bathrooms on our waterfront in a timely manner. We should be able to build a bathroom, efficiently, quickly on our waterfront. So, I think that, looking at other bathrooms, there are other public bathrooms on the waterfront that have no attendants. There's more bathrooms on the waterfront with the state and with the town that are unattended than this building, which is attended, and there is a door between, even if they find logistically they can't create a larger open space, there is a door between the two. So anyone working in the building will be able to see someone passing in and out of the building, utilizing the bathrooms through that hallway. So I feel like that, these details can be worked out. There are logistical details of keeping an eye on people coming in and out. There is already in this design an opening from the working space to the hallway bathroom space. So there is an area in which you have a view. It could be bigger. They need to explore that. They've heard from the board. But I would hate to delay this to a future town meeting, missing a window of construction, because construction costs just keep going up. And we've run into this problem before with bathrooms in Plymouth. We saw it micromanaging the bathroom, and the next thing you know, it doesn't ever happen. So here on the waterfront here, there's other bathrooms that we can look at. 1749 Courthouse, I think, has a bathroom. The State Pier has a bathroom. They're not attended in the same level. The staff at the 1749 Courthouse have to come down and check on things on occasion, leaving the building to get there. So this is, an opportunity to allow staff to have direct eye contact with people coming and going from the building. So I don't see it as such a need that would have to put it off to another town meeting by undermining the final budget. I support the full amount and would think that we would refrain from making a motion to lessen it at town meeting.
So Derek, do you want the board tonight to make a motion as to whether we will make the motion at town meeting? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the request. Again, we have tomorrow morning motions meeting with the moderator, and I think it would be important to let him know that the board plans on making a motion to reduce this number from 378 to 178.
Okay. Any other, Ms. Iaquinto, then Mr. Canty?
Derek, do we have to make a motion, or can we just let both recommendations stand? So the Select Board recommends 178, A&F recommends 378, and then town meeting
Yeah,
decides?
the only motion that's going to town meeting is finance's recommendation.
Okay.
Is that fair to say, Kevin?
Well, so they make the default motions, but any officer can make a motion at town meeting, including a select board member, if they chose to do so. The recommendation that was voted on was, at that time, to include it in the warrant and recommend town meeting approve it at that amount. So we could stand up and advocate for our position without making a motion, or we could make a motion to reduce the amount. So the FinCom will set the base main motion on it because they voted in favor of it at a different amount. If they had voted no on it, then the Select Board would be the one making the motion. But because they voted yes, they're the default main motion maker at town meeting. So we could, if we stuck with our current recommendation, we could either just advocate for it, or we could make a motion to reduce to 178. Or we could take a formal vote on if we want to make that motion or not, or just advocate or not. Or we could reconsider the vote that we made and go to it to 378, or reconsider it and do some other thing. But those are all of our options as I see them procedurally.
Is one option to do nothing and just let town meeting vote on the 378?
Yeah, we already made a motion previously, so we don't need to
Right.
make a new motion.
Right, so we just could
We
do
could just stick
nothing
with
and just
that and-
let the 378 ride and let
Yeah.
town meeting
If we,
decide.
I would say, to Mr. Brindisi's point, like, if we don't say anything at town meeting, what they're going to hear is the FinCom's recommendation. So it may be in our interest to, if we wish to stick with the current figure, to at least say something, even if we're not going to make a motion to amend. But,
Sure.
It does sound like some of the sentiment is changing on the board, though, so I think it's probably wise for us to take a vote tonight. I don't know, Mr. Quinto, you had something as well?
Well, I was going to ask you if we get the VSB members here, the chairman, vice chairman. We have Lee Filson here, C. Plymouth. No disrespect, Derek, but I think we should, if you have some questions, you should ask them why they're bringing this forward and why it's important to them and why it's important to tourism, since that's what their jobs are. Just, and get off the motion subject for a little bit.
I'm happy to open the mic to folks from C. Plymouth and the Visitor Service Board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. I'm Lee Filson. I'm the head of C. Plymouth and also a resident here in Plymouth. And I can at least answer some of the questions that you asked today. What you decide to do, of course, is up to you. But in terms of not being able to see people coming in and out, you will, because there'll be two openings where you can see the back hallway that leads, and they're both already there, where you can see people going into either the ladies' or the men's restroom. The difference is going to be the side window will become a door, and that's the door that people that are ADA accessible, et cetera, will come into to go to both. The other reason that we need the door is because we've been operating illegally for many years because we have only one door, only egress going in or out. And we've for long needed a second door. This allows us to also solve that problem. And also, Select Board Member Iaquinto, the comment that you made about, or maybe it was Mr. Canty, I don't know, but the comment about people not coming to them instead of just going to the restroom, they'll be able to come either way. So for someone that wants to come in the regular front door, they can come in and then go on back to the restrooms, or they can come in the side door where the hallway is that goes. There are three changes. One change is the new door with the hallway that will go to both restrooms. The second change is all new ramps so that we've got better access for ADA for both entrances. And the third change is that we'll bump out the front part so that our ambassadors are not like this every day. As it is now, it's like a closet. And people that are going in and out of the restroom constantly bump into other people because there's so little space to get back there. So basically, we'll add our second door, we'll have a hallway that goes to both. You'll be able to go to the restrooms through either door, and then we'll create enough space that we can operate and we can service our visitors much, much better. Unfortunately, the person that spoke to you, one of our ambassadors, was really speaking their opinion. None of our ambassadors had seen the plans and can see that you can go either way. And so I apologize for that wrong information.
So Lee, the current schematic or blueprint, or whatever we would call this, that we have, seems to indicate that between what is labeled as VC and addition, the other doors on the map are indicated with like a swinging icon, but between VC and addition, there's a front door to get into addition. But to me, it looks like there's like a window between VC and addition. Is that an entranceway?
No, it's not a window. There are actual openings between the hallway and the front part of the,
So it's
they're
not
open now as well.
So there's no door, it's just like there's a wall that comes in and it's open?
There are no doors right now between the restroom area and the front part, and there would not be still.
I think Mr. Canty, though, is talking about in the wall that's between the existing visitor center and the addition.
Yes.
There appears to be an opening where the doors currently are.
Right.
What, is that wall going to be maintained? Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking, yes, to me, it looked like a counter, like a window that somebody would be behind a desk and say, oh, you want to know where the Mayflower is? It's down there.
We
Or
don't-
Or is there going to be a door there, or is it just, there's walls that come out, but it's an open space with no door?
There's a wall right behind the area where they sit, and that's the wall that will be the wall to the hallway. But on both sides of the wall, that's open, that goes to the two restroom doors.
So you can walk, I guess, can you if you're a citizen or a visitor, can you walk in the front in
Yeah.
addition and walk through addition, through VC, and into the hallway with the bathroom without leaving the
Yes.
building?
Yes.
You can?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so that must be so there's either no door there or it's mislabeled. But either way, you can walk through it, you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's difficult to interpret that. Other questions? Mr. Cohen?
I think it's, thank you, Lee, because it's helpful to hear the importance of the safety issues relevant to we only have one door there. And we need more than one door, obviously, and this would deal with that question. And then there's the idea of this new ADA compliant ramp going in. and having the direct access for those people with mobility issues to get quickly to this bathroom location. But obviously, there's a front door. There are staff on duty. You come in, they're standing there, they're greeting people. There's a wall behind them, but there's 2 openings on either side of them to this hallway where you're seeing people moving around. So there is proximity of staff and people coming and going. So, I think that's something that we have to keep in mind, that the design is focused around these ramps, ADA compliancy, and a direct route for people to get to that bathroom.
And one other comment to that, when when we have people in wheelchairs that come in now, they have to roll around that main desk and then a little to the right and then a little to the left to get in, which is another reason if we had that doorway on the side, they could just come, they could use the ramp either way, but use the ramp just to come straight into the side and go to either restroom. So for ADA reasons, it's important to us as well.
Along with the safety issue about having more than one egress.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further questions? I'll recognize the chair of the VSB. Come on up. And then I'll recognize the vice chair as well.
Steve Lighton, I'm the chair of the VSB. The VSB unanimously voted to give a grant to C. Plymouth, to the town, basically, to renovate this building. We first thought about replacing the building, but that's around $2 million, and that's ridiculous. So we did the best we can. We spent $15,000 with Wesson and Sampson, and their design and what they did wasn't really what we needed. This is all conceptual. We have, David Peck has come in and sat with us and basically told us that it would be around $25,000 to $35,000 to get actual design and blueprints. So, and with what I'm not going to talk about the building, that's all I'm going to talk about the building, but what I really want to talk about is the business people on the waterfront, the visitors, even the residents complained that there's not enough bathrooms on the waterfront. The VSB pays to keep the harbor master's bathrooms open later. The VSB pays for the bathrooms in this building to be open weekends and holidays because there's a need. And the need's the bathroom, and the VSB's mission is to support tourism, and that's why we support this. And I know it's a lot of money, and I understand Derek, where he's coming from, and he's right. I mean, it's a lot of money. I mean, I'm not disputing anything that the town manager has to say, but it's a need, and it's a need for everyone, the residents, the tourists, and the tourists do bring in money. That's our largest industry in this town, so I think that we should support it, and thank you.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Lyden? Everett?
Good evening, Everett Malaguti, Vice Chair of the VSB, also a member of ANF. And all of you can thank me tonight for the reason this came back up, as this was my motion, unanimously supported by the ANF to reconsider and provide the full amount. The rationale for that has been stated by both Mr. Quintel and Mr. Cohan, as well as members of VSB and also Lee Filson. But I'd also like to state that this is one of the few buildings in town that sees a tremendous amount of foot traffic, both inside and outside of it, that's viewed constantly, not just by locals, but by tourists, and is also one of the most underappreciated forms of maintenance in the town. That was one of my main reasons for supporting the full ask. The second is based on timeline. One, if we do the grant, we have a timeline on how long we have to use that grant before we lose the grant. Second, escalation of costs. If we wait till April town meeting to provide full funding or even more modest funding than the original ask for the select board, that one, we have to wait until July 1st before we can spend any of that money to be used on it. So that's a stalemate of 3 months. Secondly, escalation costs in construction, the contingencies and the increases would probably go at least 25–40% higher within that time frame based upon different schematics and different changes to the plans. along that as well too, is we'll be interrupting the tourism season if we have to, one, comply with the grant at a later date if we did that, to interrupt the services provided by the Visitor Service Center, the programs that are purchased, the ambassadors, and also the rest facilities. Another benefit that the center provides is if anything happens with the state for funding issues or anything, DCR bathrooms, if they're closed or under construction, that's the only nearest location that you can actually use a rest facility without trying to buy something at a restaurant to actually be able to use the facilities if need be. Otherwise, you have to travel even further up to basically Village Landing or Nelson Park. So with all of those, I think it's a disservice if we do not use these funds to actually supplement not just the tourist industry, which is our biggest revenue generator in the town, but also to provide one of the main goals of the select board that's been for numerous years of making sure that our public facilities are funded and maintained and continue to be maintained like the school has been maintaining them. We keep having criticizing from residents, and also we talk about it ourselves as well too, that we do not do a good job at maintaining our infrastructure. Case in point, if we're not going to maintain this infrastructure, then we should just be eating our words. So thank you for listening to me, and if you have any questions, I'll be here for a few minutes before I have to go to a caucus for ANF.
Mr. Cohen?
So you're in a rush. That was a very efficient explanation about the timelines, the sensitivity to this project and how it has to move forward, and we have a window and we have escalating costs. So that was very helpful, Everett. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion relative to this discussion?
I would make a motion that we reconsider our original vote and take a vote to recommend to town meeting the full amount at $378.
Second.
Did Mr. Cohan vote on the prevailing side, though? I thought he voted against it the last time.
So let me reconfigure that.
So I think the motion that Mr. Brindisi was looking for, I assume you withdraw your motion in your second?
Correct.
Thank you. I think the motion that he's looking for is for us to decide whether or not we're going to make a motion at town meeting to reduce the amount. So we're going to make a motion to make a motion. So I think the motion would be to make a motion at town meeting to reduce the amount from 378,513,
To 178.
sorry, 378,518 to 178,518.
Okay. So that would be my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. So if you vote yes on this, we'll select a representative from the board to make this motion at town meeting. They will represent our original wishes, which is to reduce the amount to 178. If you vote no on this, we are not going to express our interest in reducing the amount at town meeting. Everyone agrees to that? Discussion. Mr. Canty.
So I think the unknowns in this particular project warrant us at least presenting the argument to town meeting that we made at the original meeting, that the 178 is financially responsible, and they would augment, if they'd be able to do this scope of work, perhaps with some of the feedback they've received from us and may receive at town meeting as well, with the grant money, if they get the grant money. But if they don't get the grant money and they still want to do something similar to this scope of work, then they'd have to come back to town meeting and present that. I feel uncomfortable giving them authorization to spend between 178 and 378 because of the significant percentage increase that is. I understand the importance of the structure and its service utility to the community as well as to our visitors. However, I think the fiscal uncertainty as well as the other uncertainties compound and necessitate that we at least present the option to town meeting. They control the purse strings, they will make the ultimate decision. They should, I think, discuss this discrepancy, and we would be providing them with that option. If we make a motion to amend down and they vote not to amend it, then the main motion from FinCom would stand and the process would play out that way. If they agree with the reduction, then it would be so amended, and then that's what they would vote on. But if we don't present them with the option, unless one of them decides to do so, it is unlikely that that level of discussion will come forward, because FinCom sets the narrative at town meeting, not the select board, unless we assert ourselves. So those are my thoughts and opinions. I think we should stick with our original recommendation, and I think we should advocate for it at town meeting and respect the process and let them decide.
Mr. Cohen?
My avocation is that we vote no, and I think that Lee Filson from C. Plymouth and Everett Malaguti and Steve Lyden, who are working at Visitor Service, have outlined their concerns and why they're moving forward. And I think that I stand behind that advice. I think we, as a board, obviously, we want to be weighing in at town meeting, but I also want to listen to committees and boards that are working on this issue on a daily basis. So I'm going to defer to them as I move to vote on this.
Ms. Iaquinto?
I agree with Mr. Canty's assessment. I think that we should present the rationale for our original decision, because it is a question of fiscal responsibility to me. That the need for the visitor center is clear, but the delta between the ask and the 178 and the 378 is really significant. If there were more fleshed out plans, I would be much more comfortable with that. And going forward, I would love to see some options when we have projects presented like this to us, different options based on different budget amounts, similar to what we would get if we were redesigning our house. You'd look at what some of the possibilities were. You'd be able to discuss trade-offs. Like here, we're sitting here, this is the second night that we've been talking about bathrooms. So, if we had some options in front of us, I think it would have been a much easier discussion. That's all water under the bridge, but I'm just, mentioning it for the future, that would be something that I'd be looking for.
Any further discussion? I find myself in an uncomfortable position because I agree with points made by everyone on this board. I think the most compelling argument here tonight, though, is the one made by Mr. Malaguti about the ever-rising cost of construction. And from the moment I got involved in government here in town, all I've heard is how, one, the town has neglected its buildings, and two, how we do so at our own peril, because every time a project comes up, it costs us more and more the further we delay. I agree with Mr. Canty's assessment about whether or not there's an option presented, but I think that he's right. I think a member of town meeting could make this argument instead of us. So I'm fine to let the Advisory and Finance Committee's recommendation to go forward, and if a member of town meeting, some of whom we have here in this room, decides to make the motion to reduce it, we'll let the final deciding body make that decision. So I will vote no. Further discussion? Mr. Cohen?
No.
Mr. Quintal?
No.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, no. So the board will not present its argument for the original position that it had at town meeting. The full requested amount, as amended by the Advisory and Finance Committee, will go to town meeting unless they decide amongst themselves to make that decision. All right, moving along, board and committee appointments. We have Town Clerk Kelly McElrath.
Thank you once again for having me. I believe I'm here just to answer any questions you might have based on Mr. Canty's submission to you last week for a vote to change the appointment dates. unless there's more information you need from me.
Mr. Canty, do you want to re-explain your motion? Well, what I assume will be your motion?
Yes. So obviously, when it came to light, this issue with the oath of office problem, a number of folks were found to be in non-compliance. Some at the time that it came to a head had not taken the oath at all, but did then avail themselves of a subsequent amnesty period that the board, a quorum of members present, a majority of members present, I should say, wanted to offer them. And then there was another group that had not complied with the text of the bylaw, but did take the oath eventually prior to amnesty. And then the third group was board members that appeared to have not taken the oath, although I did note that in the data sheet that I was listed in one erroneously because I had been, it was listed as my original appointment to NDCAP, but I've been reappointed to that twice since then and taken the oath each time since then. So I had asked in that group for board members to look at their own inclusion in the Group 3 list and confirm whether they were appropriately listed there or whether a similar inaccuracy was reflected there. But in terms of Group 1 and Group 2, Group 1 had, at the time that I prepared these, had 44 members that, 44 positions that took advantage of amnesty. We subsequently received a letter of resignation from one of those individuals for the group that he was elected to serve on and was appointed representative of, so that would be reduced down to 43 at this point. There's also 48 border committee positions that took the oath of office 31 days or more after they were appointed by the select board, but prior to the amnesty period. So for the 43 that took advantage of amnesty, I would suggest that we appoint them effective the day before amnesty was offered, so on September 8th, 2025, because that would comply, a retroactive appointment with them taking an oath by September 18th would mean they would be in technical compliance, the best kind of compliance with the bylaw. And then Group 2, because their date of oath was various dates, I went through the reports and listed the calendar day prior to them taking the oath as my suggested effective date for their appointment to also bring them in compliance. And then for select board members, if they remain on the list in Group 3, I would also make them, their appointments to their assignments on September 8th as well, because that would also comply with the text of the bylaw. So that's the long and short of it. This would solve, there are some boards and committees that have significant numbers of their membership on this list, and I know the governor's bill solution seeks to solve for elected and appointed more globally, but we'd have to wait for that. And I am concerned that some of these boards and committees, if we do not make retroactive appointments now, will be unable to have a legal meeting and take any legal action, particularly binding legal action, for those relevant boards. So I think it's more a belt and suspenders approach with this solution for the people within our realm of control, solves that issue, and then the governor's bill can solve it more broadly throughout the community.
Are there questions for either Mr. Canty or Ms. McElrath? Do you want to make a series of motions, or?
I would say we do each group as a motion.
I will let you do that.
So I would make a motion that we appoint the 43 remaining listed members of Group 1 in the materials to their relevant board or committee appointment, maintaining their original end date for their term effective September 8th, 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Canty motions, Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Discussion.
Are we still doing the governor's bill too?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would just
Well,
end up
that's
being.
going to be how I vote.
Yeah,
I'm not going to just vote for this without that.
Yeah, I think so, because we still have to address the elected.
Okay, so,
Yeah, and we can do both.
okay,
They're mutually,
that's what I want, you
Yeah.
know, I'll support this if we're doing that also.
yeah, they're mutually
Okay.
compatible.
Okay, all right.
It's like a double protection.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
belt and suspenders. Yeah.
Belt and suspenders, I love it. Okay.
Other discussion? All right, Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous.
So I would then make a motion that for the members of Group 2 who took their oath after 30 days but prior to the amnesty period, there are 48 listed positions that they be appointed for the day prior to them taking their oath, which is various dates, maintaining their original end date for the term that they were appointed to.
Is there a second?
A second?
Discussion? Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous.
So then, I guess, Group 3 does anybody want to chime in as to whether or not they should be excluded from the motion before I make it, rather than doing it the other way? If not, I will just make the motion.
Seems.
All right, so I would make a motion that we appoint the relevant listed select board members to their board or committee assignments listed in the materials effective on September 8th, 2025, maintaining the original end dates for those appointments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
I vote yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the governor's bill. Mr. Brindisi has passed out some paperwork to us. I'll read into the record the act which would enable us to take this action. It's an act relative to elected and appointed officials of the town of Plymouth. Section 1, notwithstanding the provisions of Sections 5-3-1 and 5-3-2 of the Charter of the Town of Plymouth, or of any general or special law to the contrary, all acts and proceedings of the representative town meeting of the Town of Plymouth held since March 18, 2020, and all actions and proceedings in reliance thereon are hereby ratified, validated, and confirmed, notwithstanding that some members of the representative town meeting were not sworn in within the 30 days of their election, and further, any representative town meeting member serving as of the effective date of this act who was not sworn in within 30 days of their election may continue to serve in such position until the expiration of their current elected term or their sooner removal, retirement, or resignation. Section 2 states, notwithstanding the provisions of Section 1 of Chapter 123 of the bylaws of the Town of Plymouth, or of any other general or special law to the contrary, all acts and actions taken by all elected and appointed officials since April 11th, 2015, and all actions and proceedings taken in reliance thereon are hereby ratified, validated, and confirmed, notwithstanding that some elected and appointed officials were not sworn in within 30 days of their election, and further, any appointed official serving as of the effective date of this act who was not sworn in within 30 days of their appointment may continue to serve in such position until the expiration of their current appointed term or their sooner removal, retirement, or resignation. Section 3, this act shall take effect upon its passage. Do you have anything to add?
No, I just a little bit more background. So this is a revised version of the act that was sent to you via email last week. Town council and town clerk have been working with special counsel to merge the town's language along with some edits already received by Senate council. So what's before you is, I would say, a very strong draft. We do expect that there may be some further edits by either the governor's office or the state legislature. But we feel confident that if the board was so choose, we could send this forward for action by the governor. We have a draft motion that would authorize the submittal of this special legislation to the governor's office, and any editorial changes we are asking, in order to keep this an efficient process, be reviewed and approved by town council, so we don't have to come back to the select board at a future meeting.
Questions? Mr. Canty?
This is probably for Ms. McElrath, but are there elected officials, looking at the report now, are there elected officials other than town meeting members that would be? Sorry, ITV's going to yell at me. This is for Ms. McElrath. Are there elected officials other than town meeting members that did not take their oath within 30 days that would be negatively impacted?
That's a two-part question. Yes, there are some elected officials that did not. However, section 5-3-1 and 5-3-2 of the charter only specifies town meeting members.
And, okay.
It's so the bylaw that says all elected and appointed officials, that's
Right.
where the other elected officials will come into play, and they're covered under section 2.
Okay, so, all right.
Yeah,
So-
the charter specifically points out town meeting
Right.
members that don't take their
Yes.
oaths, so that's what section 1. Section 2 is the bylaw.
So section 2 would solve all the way back to April 11th, 2015, any issues related to that?
Correct,
For
because that's
all
when
elected.
because that's when the bylaw was passed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Other questions? All right. So the motion that would be before us then would be to move that the Select Board approve the proposed language as discussed for the Governor's Bill entitled An Act Relative to Elected and Appointed Officials of the Town of Plymouth, and provided further that Town Council is hereby authorized to approve amendments from the General Court and/or the Governor's Office, which shall be within the scope of the general public objectives of this petition. Does someone make that motion?
So moved.
Mr. Canty makes the motion. Is it seconded?
Second.
I'm going to give that one to Mr. Quinto. Is there any discussion? Mr. Canty?
So, obviously, this has been a hot-button issue for a month or so now, so hopefully I'm glad that we took the time to fully vet the issue and assess it and come up with a system solution to a systemic problem. I do not think that this is a problem of the current administration or the current town clerk's office. To be clear, I think it's a multifaceted issue. There were some incorrect and misleading guidance giving out to folks. We have not always been consistent, and our predecessor boards have not always been consistent in reminding our appointees of when they were supposed to be sworn in, and that is true not only of our appointees, but of other appointing authorities as well. So the sheer number of people, both appointed and elected, that were in non-compliance always suggested to me that it was bigger and needed a larger and wider solution. And I think both what we just did with the board and committee appointments that we control, as well as this governor's bill, will solve it. And now going forward, that we have been made aware of this and that the community has been made aware of it, we can more readily hold people to these standards. I think 30 days to get sworn in is a reasonable standard as long as it's clearly communicated to folks. And I'm confident that the systems that we've put in place for our appointees, as well as that the clerk's office has put in for appointed and elected officials throughout the town, will prevent this from resurfacing. So I commend the work of the town clerk's office in coming to put this report together, which I know took a lot of time to do. And I appreciate that effort, and I look forward to putting this chapter of Plymouth's town government behind us so we can all continue with the work of our residents and the betterment of our community. Thank you.
Further discussion? All right. Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
I vote yes.
Mr. Quinto?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
And myself, yes. It's unanimous.
I just wanted to mention that there's a letter that that will be the cover of this legislation submitted to the governor's office. It'll be signed by the chair of the select board and the full state delegation as well.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the Earth Removal Bylaw Review Committee. I've been in communication with the chair of the planning board, who provided a draft of the committee charge that will be going in front of their board tomorrow night. I'll give folks a few minutes to review this, but the long and short of it is that this puts the guardrails in place to dictate the work that the committee will do. They're going to be charged with assisting in the selection of the consulting team, working with that consulting team to review case studies that pertain to the impact of earth removal bylaws. They'll establish a list of best practices for earth removal and draft revisions of the current bylaw, which will then go to the planning board. This is an advisory board to the planning board, so although we are ostensibly going to make appointments to it through this board, it is going to be reporting to them. The planning board has delegated 3 appointments to us. You'll see that this talks about the membership criteria that I mentioned last week. It goes a little further, talks about all members have to be Plymouth residents. No member can be an elected official except for town meeting members. It stipulates that no member may serve simultaneously on one of the appointing bodies, so COPC folks can't be appointed, select board members can't be appointed, and planning board members can't be appointed. It talks about only 1 member per organization, for example, advocacy groups, businesses, boards, things like that. And it mentions the preferential selection criteria that we talked about last week: sciences, engineering, legal and legislative work. It goes on to talk about zoning and environmental regulation as well. Questions about this? Mr. Canty?
So I understand we moved a little fast with this, but both this and the prior agenda item we didn't receive until we were taking it up at the meeting. So it would be preferable to me if we could receive these materials earlier than that in the packet. And I know that that's not always possible, but having it happen back to back is unfortunate. And in relation to this, with the review that I've been able to do at this point, I noticed that under purpose, activities of the committee will include assisting in the selection of a consulting team that will include hydrologists, soil scientists, engineers, and land use attorneys. And then there's work once the consulting team is selected that I don't need to read for what I'm talking about here. But I see that under status, the second sentence says, "The work of the committee shall commence in earnest once a consulting team is retained by the town." So to me, that sentence under status should be stricken because we want them to be involved in the selection of the team. And those two seem to be in conflict. I think you could charitably read the second sentence to mean that that's when a different phase of their work would be commencing, but I think it would be clearer if that sentence were not there. But I see Mr. Hartman is poised to provide planning department input, and I cherish his commentary.
Lee?
Thank you, Lee Hartman, Director of Planning and Development. So I know the community is chomping at the bit to get ahead and start going with this. Problem is, December, I'm retiring. We just had a retiree in our office for a town planner, and so we'll have 1 position in the very near future providing staff support. So our concern is, without the consultants involved, trying to have a committee start to do something without proper support is not in the town's best interest. So we use that language and we use the word earnest. We tried to talk about another word that might better explain it, but I think really the intent here is get the consultants on board, and then once we have a full complement of staff in the planning department, then we can provide the assistance. What we can't do is have a committee be put together and have them start to do something without the kind of necessary professional support that's needed.
So what if, Mr. Hartman, and again, I'm just getting this, but what if that sentence were reworked to say something to the effect of, the committee's work shall be in tandem with the consultant team that they select, or something that suggests that the bulk of the work is going to occur, there's work in phase one of selecting the consultant, but then that they're going to be working with that consultant throughout. I think that or a similarly phrased sentence may accomplish what you're looking to do without suggesting that they will be, you could read this if you were a skeptic, and some of the proponents of this are skeptical of us, so we shouldn't lean into that, might be that we're going to present them with a consultant and they're going to work with them whether they'd like to or not, which I know is not your intention, but that could be a potential reading of that, and I would like to avoid that, given that this is already a issue of significant public interest and concern and consternation within the community.
Yeah, I think it's a linguistic issue. I think Mr. Canty's right. Phase one of this project, or of this committee, is bullet point 1 under activities, and phase 2 is the remaining 4 bullet points. Is that a good interpretation of what you're saying?
Yeah, phase 2, and then maybe draft revisions is phase 3, but yes, definitely that there's phases to the work.
So if you could share that concern with the planning board chair and the planning board, I think that would be helpful.
And my suggestion would be that if you have a preference for either Kevin or yourself, that we work on something and then just make sure that you're okay with it, and then we can circulate it to everybody afterwards. But tell me who you'd like to have work on the wordsmithing with myself and Steve Bulletin.
Okay.
Would you like to work with them?
I'm happy to work with them on the phrasing of that.
Okay.
Mr. Cohen?
So I get I see Ernest, I see the suggestion of in tandem, but there's nothing stopping the committee from forming and having early discussions as they go to hire a consultant. This is not unheard of. This is how most committees operate. I do want to express to the community that the intention is to move in a manner sooner rather than later.
Right.
So I just want that to be understood. I know where you're going with Ernest, and I know where Lee's office and Steve may have deliberated on that word, and Kevin is looking to revisit it. But I just want to make sure that we're moving to form a committee. The committee will form, and it won't be held back from this process of getting these people in position to assist the committee.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just say my experience over many years of working is when you have a committee and they say what we should do, we usually mean staff. And so that's why we want to have the staff here to give the proper support.
Sure. Ms. Iaquinto?
Yeah. Sorry. I also had a question under status, maybe for clarity. The last sentence, the committee shall be disbanded after its recommendations are presented to the planning board and town meeting. It's not clear what whose its is referring to. Is that the consultant recommendations? Is that?
No, that would be a final bylaw draft, and we can make that clear.
Yeah, just because it sounds like it would be the draft revisions to the current bylaw would be recommended, and
Yeah,
then they.
part of me doesn't want to assume that there'll be changes, but I think that's a pretty safe
I
assumption.
think it's probably safe to assume.
Further discussion? Mr. Cohen?
I would like to, I see that some of the thought process around who we might be attracting to this application process. Obviously, we want to give the applicant some indication of the quality, the attributes that we're looking to have on the committee. You mentioned a few. I just wanted to make sure that, you talked about a hydrologist and land use legal. I also look at finding a climate scientist, if someone has that experience. These environmental issues should be expressed in the charge as we move forward to give applicants during this period of time some indication of the attributes we're looking for. Like I said, someone, a contractor, a builder, someone from the agricultural committee, public health. These are things that we should be thinking about. Just your thoughts on when we start to advertise for resumes.
So we could create a lengthy list, but again,
I don't want to
think-
create a
yeah,
lengthy
no,
list.
I think as.
I just want to balance
As
it.
a board, right, and I think as each of the three boards makes their appointments, I think it's on you as a board.
Okay, good.
With a majority vote to find that balance.
Yep. Okay,
And
good.
hopefully each board does that with the people they have. And oftentimes what'll happen is these three boards don't meet on
Right.
the same night, so that whoever you don't select
Right.
will go into
Okay,
the
good.
pool with the planning board, or if the planning board goes first, then you have the other pool.
I just,
To that-
wanted to
to
get
that-
your thought process on that. But I did have one follow-up.
Let me just chime in on this issue first. So to that point, Lee, I spoke with the chairman of the planning board today, and we agreed that we would list, and this came at the suggestion of Ms. Anderton, that we figure out a schema for soliciting applications, and we decided that it probably makes the most sense to have people apply to the individual appointing authorities. So just like when you're on a village steering committee, you apply either to the planning board seat or to the select board seat. That's how we would approach this. Now, it wouldn't prevent someone from submitting the application 3 times to each of the appointing authorities, but at least this way, it gives folks the opportunity if they.
And again, I think even if we don't do that, we can coordinate at a
Yeah.
staff level that whoever goes first, then the remaining names get passed on to the other two committees.
Yeah. Sorry. Mr. Cohen?
And then I did note here, it said that only one member for per organization. So, what are those organizations? Where is the membership?
so
Who's
that's where
active?
we ask
I think
people-
that it needs to be,
Well,
I think, just my thought process there is that I understand what you're trying to achieve there, but at the same time, it's I think, each person's going to apply, and I don't see how you can police that.
No, you can't, but we
Yeah.
ask them to disclose. So
Okay.
that says identify any groups that you belong to, so that
Yeah.
if they choose not to disclose that they're part, then we won't know. But again, it would be more of a way so that we don't have 4 people from the cranberry industry involved.
So in the app, so if someone's going to put a resume into
Mm-hmm.
the town committee, we can actually ask what
Yeah.
groups are you associated with?
Applicants must identify their affiliations with any environmental, agricultural, economic development organizations. So it's up to them, it's kind of an honor system. We're not going to query check them to see if they belong to others. but
Well,
we're
we'll
asking
query check them, but
Yeah.
not
Right, yeah,
in
but not for
relation to
this.
their.
But we
info.
will ask them to
So we can
check the-
actually ask an applicant of that.
Yeah,
Please
that's-
disclose
and
your
that's- yeah.
organizations you're associated with. Okay. Very good.
Mr. Canty?
I guess I also have some, now that Mr. Cohan brings that point up, like, how broad would that, like, what if they're a member of like a national environmental organization?
So I would say that there's no appointing police that's going to be involved in this. I really think the attempt here is not to have 8 people from one group or another, and it's the discretion of the 3 boards when they make their appointments.
But aren't-
And I think you could make that, again, we could get this really complicated, but I think if there are 8 people who all belong to the Sierra Club, you can look
Well,
and
right,
decide.
right, but then if you're not going to target the National Environmental
We could say
League,
local.
right,
We
something, a placeholder organization.
We could say local and regional.
Well, but then, I mean, has this language been vetted by town council? It seems like it's kind of getting a little close to like First Amendment-related issues and I understand that you don't want to have this group basically be another group wearing a different set of hats for the night, that they're at these meetings, but a prohibition against it could potentially be seen as being viewpoint targeting in a way that is
So
undesirable.
if the board's recommendation is to not to strike that, I can talk to the, I don't, you tell me. Again, what we're trying to do is to create some parameters for balance.
I think,
And I understand your concern, but again.
Right.
I think it's individual boards with their appointments.
I think it's less problematic if they're identifying voluntarily their affiliations, but a prohibition, because then that could be assessed. In the same, like, for example, I'll use myself as an example, because I won't offend myself, I don't think. But like when we're appointing people to the Airport Citizens Advisory Committee,
So suppose we add the word should. Would that make you feel more comfortable?
well, the bold language is more what I'm
Yeah, in the bold language.
getting rid of that, and then applicants should, that I'm more comfortable with that. But like, going back to my example, like, I think there's a benefit in the airport CAC to have some residents, some people involved in the industry, some people that are renters at the airport, like a diversity of perspectives. But I think having too rigid of a guideline on something like that, and suggesting that only, giving the impression that you're suggesting that only a certain number of people with a certain viewpoint should be able to show up, can be problematic and counterproductive. And only, because some of the criticism that has led to this initiative is that the town isn't listening to certain concerned groups who are themselves organizing to advocate on behalf of their concerns. And I understand the desire to have a diversity of perspectives, but there's also, if it's a common cause that you're advocating for, how do you toe that line,
And I think too that this is, to your point earlier, Lee, that it's up to the appointing authority to decide what criteria works for them. So I think making this perhaps a preference rather than a requirement might be helpful.
Preference would be much softer than a prohibition.
And so we can use the same language that we use for the people we pick versus the people we don't pick.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Further discussion or questions for Lee? Mr. Cohen?
That takes it, so glad they have some resolution on that. I go back to the preference. So you have this preference, there's of 3 categories. Was there any other discussions around what other categories you felt like? How do you feel like that covers the spectrum of people that you're looking for? Do you think that's small or something that, I guess it just defaults back to the board about what qualities we're each looking for?
Part of this is that we're also running ahead of the actual body that's sponsoring this group. So we're reviewing this information ahead of the planning board, who's going to meet tomorrow night. So, I think
That's a good point.
this is what happens though when an appointing authority delegates their appointing authority to other appointing authorities. You get a lot of input.
I
perhaps
understand.
when you didn't
And
want
again,
it. But Lee, go ahead.
I think the word's preference there, and I think you're right. You want a balance. You want maybe citizens who are just citizens who care, people with technical background, people with legal background, economic backgrounds, people from the cranberry bogs. Hopefully we have, a little
Health sciences.
representation from everybody. But we don't list preference for people who are in the agricultural committee, agricultural. So again, we were looking just to say that having some people with some technical knowledge on the committee would help, but.
Yeah, and I understand what David is indicating. We are kind of ahead of the planning board. The planning board's meeting tomorrow night, and they're giving us guidance, but in the end, it defaults back to us and what qualities we're looking for during that period of time when we look at applications. I can understand. Thank you.
Anything else? I don't think we need to take any vote here tonight, unless the board has some action item they'd like.
So the only thing I could think of is whether or not you want to instruct staff to start the process for advertising for people. That would be the only thing.
So our motion last week was to.
Oh, you did do that already? Okay.
Post on the 9th pending the recommendation from the planning board.
Okay.
And COPC took a similar action themselves at their meeting last week for their 3.
So just to kind of wrap up by consensus, I don't think a vote is needed. We'll work with Kevin on the language about the bulk of the work, and then something about in tandem with the consulting team, and then we'll change the membership with the affiliations to a preference, and add the word disbanded after recommendations on bylaw changes are presented.
Unless there's objection?
While we're discussing it in open session so that it doesn't lead to any open meeting law issues, does anyone have any, if the sentence were something in the line of what I said. Is everyone okay with a version of that sentence?
If I could, I think what I would envision is, once we work on that language, we give it to each board, and if for some reason a board member says to the chair, hey, I want to talk about this, then we can always deal with it. I think that would be my suggestion, we do the language. If any individual has an issue, then we could talk about it as a group.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah, just, are we going to be, when we're soliciting the applications, are they going to see this, or what we decide, and then, because that...
Yes,
Because
yes.
that's, we wouldn't have an opportunity to bring it before us again before their applications go live. That's my only, I understand what you're saying.
Well, you can delay putting the applications out too until we do that. It's up to
That
you.
wasn't part of the deal.
I think as long as we're in the ballpark of what we discussed, if no one has an objection to being in that ballpark, I'm comfortable with it. I want to give people an opportunity to express themselves before that deadline.
I'm really not like a language guy, so common sense would say, when you have applicants, you look on Facebook, you look on these groups, I think it's very easy to find out who's in what, if that's what your objective is.
No, this is
But at the
the-
end of the day, every board is going to vote on each member, and that's the final, let's not, dig in so much in the beginning.
Well, this is about the working with the consultant sentence, not the membership in an organization.
I don't think.
But I still will,
Okay. I just wanted to.
I just think we're trying to dot all the i's and the t's, and we have time.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable directionally with the way the language is headed, so I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so Kevin will work with staff before the planning board
And the
meeting.
chair, and Steve Bolt, and the chair.
Steve, prior to the planning board meeting, to give him some indication of how we feel about the only one member per organization sentence.
We would talk about it, I can do that too if you'd like, but we
Yeah,
would,
I think we've decided that, and again, unless the planning board objects, my recommendation tomorrow night to the planning board is that it says preference.
Okay.
And I'll change that language for them before the
Okay.
meeting, that will say preference. I think the only thing that needs to be discussed, unless the board disagrees, the planning board disagrees
Yep.
with the word preference or with bylaw changes, those are pretty clear.
Okay.
The only thing I think we have to focus on is that language about in tandem with the consultant and bulk of work.
right,
Okay.
the second sentence of status, that's
I
what
think those others,
So
I'll just make those
Kevin will
changes
work on that.
and recommend them to the planning board.
And I do default back to the preferences shall be given. I do think that we should we have 3 little sentences. I think we should add a 4th sentence, which references, a public health or climate science or hydrology, something of that nature, because it doesn't seem as if, I know you indicated that you thought that they would revisit that at their meeting, but I'd
So
like
you
to-
named
a
several.
balance.
And we could put a whole list together.
Not a
if you
whole list.
want.
I'm
Well,
just like, you have
named
3
about
sentences
4.
there. I was thinking a 3rd sentence that just referenced and see how people feel about
What was it?
a climate science, someone with climate science experience, hydrology, and public health.
So you mentioned 3.
3. I see that in one sentence you have 3. There's the balance.
Is there any further?
So my only concern about that, and the reason why we kind of kept it brief, is now you're going to start to get to a point where you'll have fewer citizens at larges or others, because now you've just created a fairly lengthy list of.
Then you can always just say,
people you want.
then it's just the general citizens at large. I
Folks,
mean,
but at the end of the
but at
day,
the end of the day, it's
at the
your
end of the day,
discretion.
it's up to the appointing
Planning board,
authority
yeah.
who they want to
Yeah.
appoint. So
Yeah.
I think we can belabor this all day and night.
Right.
The planning board is going to decide the ultimate language that
So,
goes on
as long as
this.
there's
But at the end of the
kept my eyes
day,
off it. I
if
kept
they want us to
drawing my
pick
eyes
3,
back.
we will pick our 3.
As
And
long as
so
there's
does the
consensus
OPC.
from this group that I'm adding a 4th bullet that says climate scientists, public
Science.
health, hydrology.
Someone with climate science, not a scientist, I don't think that we're going to find that. So someone with climate science experience.
Hydrology and public health. If
Correct.
you're-
Great.
If you're all nodding,
Great.
then
Yeah.
we'll add it.
Sounds great, Lee. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Quintel?
Not so fast, Lee. I just have a couple questions.
All right, last time.
For
you
my
did this
own,
to me,
no,
it
no,
wasn't
not to
fun.
do with this, you don't have to
Okay.
write anything.
Here we go.
But this is probably the cart before the horse, whatever, but you know how the town or certain boards charge so much a yard for gravel?
Okay?
Is that legal? 'Cause I hear, and I'm only asking because sometimes I hear it is,
So it
sometimes.
is not legal. I don't like these questions. It is not legal. However, if you negotiate with a developer
okay.
or a property.
You
well,
answered
no,
it.
just wait a minute. So just like there are so many things we do for, say, like a traffic light. So if we went to court with Red Brook and we required them to put a traffic light in at Clark Road and Long Pond Road, if we went to court, a judge would tell you, you cannot require those types of off-site improvements. If it's mutually agreed upon, then it's fine, because then there's no reason. So much of what we do when we deal with these projects is, what kind of mitigation are you going to provide? What are you willing to commit to the town for your project to come to the community? So gravel is a good example of one, when they come in and say, you're using our roads, you're going to cause damage to our roads, we would like you to contribute a certain amount of money, and it has to be negotiated. So we've done 10 cents, we've done 15 cents a cubic yard. I think those are low numbers, and again, maybe when the next project, if another project comes in, it's up to the planning board, mainly the zoning board, to try to negotiate a number that is reasonable and mutually accessible. But you can't, we couldn't have a bylaw that said you must give us $2 a yard, because that's considered an exaction, which is illegal in Massachusetts.
So, in your negotiations, where does the money go? Whether
So-
it's 10 cents or
Yeah,
15
So
cents?
we collected, I think, and again, a little, if I...
I'm not trying to put you on the
Yeah.
spot, but I mean, I don't even care how much you collected, but
So
where
let's
does it
just-
go? In the
let's just-
general fund?
Somewhere in the vicinity of over $200,000 we collected from PA Landers for the Hedges Pond Road project. That sits in a separate account, not interest-bearing, because it's ours, separate account. We monitor that account to make sure that when somebody comes in and says DPW wants to use the money, that it's being used for the areas that are impacted. So we're kind of the check. So DPW comes in and says, well, you collected this money on Hedges Pond Road, we'd like to use it on Prince Street. And the answer is no, that's not close enough to the impact. So the good example here is that a lot of the design work that's being done for the Herring Pond Road, State Road intersection roundabout, traffic light, whatever improvement we tried to do down there, the money we were collecting for the impact of the PA Landers project on Hedge Road, that's the money we used to start that design work. But again, DPW typically spends that money on road improvements. Planning department not oversees, looks at it to ensure that it meets the intent of what that money was provided to the town for.
The reason I asked is because I think that a portion of that money should either go into preservation of some sort.
So
Water.
there's a thing in the planning world called rational nexus. There's got to be a rational connection between what you're charging and what you're asking for.
Right.
So having them give us money for road improvements makes a lot of sense. Having them give us money for a playground or for open space acquisition, that's probably a little more of a reach. And again, I think the direct impact is maintaining and repairing our roads more than it is something else.
Okay, so it's something that can be discussed when we get closer to doing the committees, right?
Yes, but again.
Because I like to see it either in water conservation, or, you know, you're extracting sand, and before the report gets here, it should go back into climate resiliency. We just lost a big grant, so, you know, every little bit would help. I'm not, you know, and I know you want to go home, so.
No.
I'll save it for after, but I had to ask you the question.
It's a negotiated process, and it
Okay,
probably always
that's
will be.
fine.
Lee, who determines the nexus?
So, really mutually agreed upon. I think it's really hard for me as a staff member to go to a developer and say, I want you to build a playground, why? Because you're building, you know, whatever it is. You know, you're building a medical office and I want you to build a playground. So that's a little different. But if you can tell me, like, certain sewer lines need to be upgraded, certain road or signals need to be improved because there's a direct impact of that project, whatever it happens to be, on certain areas.
So it's decided at the time of negotiation? It's not
Yes,
decided-
and ultimately, it's mutually agreed
Right.
upon and voted by, and it's really, in most cases, if we're talking about gravel, for the most part, not the most part, it's the zoning board of appeals that would
Right,
be negotiating that.
Okay, so it's already earmarked for specific purposes by the time it gets to your account?
Yes, so we would, yes, for whatever kind of gift is coming to the town, and we call it a gift, a negotiated payment, whatever that is, we make clear what was agreed upon and where that money would go.
Mr.
Now-
Cohen's going to give us a
Well,
ZBA lesson.
Just, yeah, that's right. I was on the ZBA for a while, so we spent quite a bit of time in the evenings discussing the truck routes, the number of trucks, the time the trucks would operate, the school buses in the area. It was a way of working with the neighborhood to deal with this activity, and the zoning board would eventually come to an agreement on an amount of money per yard, and then
Negotiation.
and then they would come up with a truck route. But you do bring up an interesting point about the environmental impact of such an activity. In your word for it was
Rational nexus.
right.
So now,
I think he's making a good one.
so now, this
new
is
one.
this is an excellent example of why we want to hire a consulting team with attorneys.
Oh, look at that.
Now, this is everything I've heard. Maybe some other attorney has a way to figure out how to do this where the Attorney General will approve it. So this is exactly the type of thing that you hope comes up with the committee, and then an attorney will look at it and say, well, yeah, well, here's a way you actually can do that.
I'd like to refocus on the committee at this point. Is there anything further
I tried to
on the
back away.
committee? All right. Thank you, Mr. Hartman.
Okay.
We are now entering the public comment section of our meeting. Is there anyone in person from the public who'd like to register a comment with the board? Please introduce yourself.
Carol Jankowski, 7 Prince Street. I love the term rational nexus. I'm going to use it at the end of my very brief comments. I am here because I am a proponent of a safe, calm, tranquil neighborhood. I am an opponent to Pulte's proposal to add 163 new families to what is essentially a city block between Prince and Hedge, and then the spillover to Sandry Drive. I also just want you to know that I am not, these comments are coming from the result of me attending many meetings, selectmen, North Plymouth Steering, some pre-meetings with Pulte, Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Planning Board. So here I am. What I'm requesting is that the Board of Selectmen compile a very detailed list of why you have opposed this 40B proposal. And then I would suggest that this list is shared with all of the boards and commissions and committees involved. In my experience, recent experience, there seems to have been little coordination. There doesn't seem to be one forceful, unified statement about opposing this. I would also like to suggest, and I've done it myself, so I'm not asking you to do anything that I haven't done. I received the traffic study. It was, I requested it of Mr. Petrie. He forwarded it to me. I read it. I will admit some of it I did not understand. I am not a traffic engineer, but I'm a pretty smart woman. I read through it, and I'm hoping that you all will do the same, because it draws a very illogical conclusion that adding 163 units, families with multiple cars, is not going to have an adverse effect on North Plymouth. Totally illogical. Add 2 teenagers to a family and see what kind of confusion you get moving cars around. North Plymouth's infrastructure was definitely not designed for a gargantuan multi-building housing development. Our roads, our utilities, our schools just aren't designed for it. And I've just heard off the side, in side little conversations, that our water system coming down Prince Street is in need of repair. Now, I don't know this for a fact. That's secondhand information. What I think would be helpful, at least please consider, forming a coalition of all the boards, all the committees, maybe some residents too, to forcefully, loudly reject the current proposal, and at the same time, because you can do two things at once, you've already opposed it, develop a list of specific, achievable, negotiable demands that address the needs, the safety, and the sentiments of the residents. A rational nexus, right? Because right now...
Ms. Jankowski, you've exceeded 3 minutes. How much more time do you need?
May I have 2 more minutes, sir?
Sure.
Again, I'm a resident. I'm not involved in all of your negotiations and your planning and your meetings, so I'm sure that there's lots that I don't know. But I will assure you that I am pretty involved in my little neck of the woods. There are people who have no idea that soon, could be soon, they're going to be staring out their backyards at decks and lights and noise pollution. There just doesn't seem to be enough of an effort from you folks and all the boards I've mentioned to get a loud message out there. And if we have to live with 40B because of the gargantuan force of that law, then we should at least put together a force equal to that to make them toe the line, keep their feet to the fire, do some of the things that we need to do to address the safety of our children, our elderly, and our residents in that neighborhood. Thank you for the extra minutes.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak under public comment?
Steve Lyden, Precinct 17. I have good news. They started to install the traffic lights at Long Pond Road and Halfway Pond Road. So hopefully, they started putting the lights in today. Soon the lights will be working. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room? Is there anyone online? iPhone MTNSI, if you could unmute yourself and identify yourself.
Yeah, it's Matt Tavares, Precinct 2, Committee of Precinct Chairs Chair. Can you hear me?
You're a little on the quiet side, Mr. Tavares. If you could get closer to your iPhone, if that's possible.
Yeah, I apologize. Hopefully you can hear me a little better.
A little better.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm in between things and wasn't really planning to speak. So very quickly, in regards to the, go back to your discussion on the earth removal bylaw committee, I appreciate all the work that the petitioners did to work collaboratively with you, with both yourself and the planning board and their article, and then moving along to a formation of a committee by having no motion, no action requested at town meeting floor. While I appreciate the fact that the planning board and select board chairs have been working very closely together, I was a little disheartened to get this list. This process is moving very quickly and it feels a little disjointed. But I did receive this posting that you were all discussing tonight, and I agree with some of the suggestions you're making. But they're really, when it was presented and emailed to me, it said in discussions with also the COPC. That really didn't happen. And I would absolutely like to let you know that the COPC did move forward, and we were planning on posting this on the 9th, 30 days, and then voting on this November 20, looking for candidates on November 20th. But just as a common courtesy, I would appreciate it if either the chair or the vice chair would reach out to myself or the vice chair of the COPC to discuss this. It's been a one-off conversation here and there, but nothing to result in what I'm looking at here, and that's a little disheartening. This is about a collaborative effort, and town meeting is already going to be skeptical about, my members will probably be skeptical about the planning board and the select board working so closely without the COPC input when we're given this responsibility. So it's just my 2 cents. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for giving me a couple of minutes. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Tavares. As the sponsoring board, I'll pass that along to the planning board. Is there any other public comment online? All right. We'll move along then to the town manager's report.
Just a few items tonight. So first, I just wanted to inform the community that the 5th edition of Plymouth on the Move was released. So right now, you can only find this electronically. So you can go to the town's website, and it'll be on our social media platforms. It has gone to print. We plan on having plenty of hard copy magazines ready for town meeting on October 18th. Any remaining copies, as always, will be distributed to the library and to the Center for Active Living. Just by way of an update regarding the full sale, I think I mentioned in the past that a gate will be installed at the parking lot on St. Charles Ave. That has been installed. That gate has been locked, so there are no vehicles currently parked in that parking lot, which is a good thing. Now that the parking lot is secure for the remainder of the season, we're expecting the DPW to begin the first phase of the improvements to the full sale, which would include starting the drainage. So we're hoping the drainage will start next week. Once the drainage is complete, then we'll be able to move on and add the improvements to the parcel on Taylor Ave. The community health assessment is moving forward and is going extremely well. I wanted to report to the board that we conducted the online survey. The online survey continues to take place. The survey is in English, it's in Spanish, and it's in Portuguese. Right now, we have over 1,000 respondents to the online survey. So we're going to keep that open for the next couple of months, hopefully that we can get more and more input. The Route 80 sidewalk, if you drive in that area in the next couple of days, you will see construction. That construction started yesterday, so I'll keep the board posted on the progress of that project. That's been, again, we've been waiting for that project for almost 3 years now. Just an update on the Stop and Swap, formerly known as the Swap Shop. So we've opened this up for the last couple Saturdays. Right now, over the last 2 Saturdays, we've had over 100 folks attend this Stop and Swap. Again, it's been extremely popular so far. We'll continue to accept donations and swap out those donations to those folks who are willing to take them. And then the last thing I just wanted to report is that October is Fire Prevention Month. And so this coming Saturday at the Manamet Fire Station and the West Plymouth Fire Station from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we will be holding an open house at those 2 fire stations. And that's really family-oriented. This will be an opportunity for children to talk to firefighters, put on some of the firefighter turnout gear, and see all the various types of equipment. So we're going to be promoting fire prevention this month, starting again at the 2 fire stations, and then as we have been talking about for the last couple of months, really promoting the community wildfire protection plan, which is something that is currently underway. So pending any questions, that's all I have for tonight.
Questions for the town manager? Mr. Cohen?
The only thing I had to add to is the swap shop, and it's a lot of fun. Can't advocate it enough. This week I was able to secure a little bust of Socrates.
All right.
After dropping something off.
Anyone else? All right, we'll move along. Select board discussion, new business? Mr. Canty?
So, I have a couple items under new business that I'd like to see us take up on a future agenda in the near future. Specifically, we have talked about these as part of our goals for the year. And I think there are two that, in addition to ones I've mentioned previously, that should be taken up as part of our assessment in regards to the budgetary process. One would be public safety staffing and increasing that. We had in our goals listed for the police department, but I think it's both a police department and a fire department issue that we should look at. I know that a few years ago at this point, the town had a SAFER grant program that we were able to ease the transition of some new firefighters onto the tax rolls over a period of a 3-year period with 100%, then 66%, then 33% paid by a grant, and then 100% in the 4th year paid by the municipality in terms of their salary to improve response times under the ISO requirements. Exploring an option like that for the fire department or other options to increase fire department staffing, I think would be beneficial. And as we all know from what we discussed as a board, even the members that were running for election at the time, because it became an issue at the election with the civil service question, the police department is also experiencing acute staffing shortages that are having an effect on the ability of the department to meet its needs and sustain a quality of life for their officers, which if left unaddressed will only create a downward spiral where more people leave because they can't take it anymore, and then the problem gets worse, and then more people leave, and et cetera, et cetera. So I would like to see us reviewing what, if anything, we can do about those two public safety staffing-related priorities on a future agenda. That would be great. I would also like us to, in a related note, my office is in Brockton. I don't have to go to Brockton that often. I primarily work out of here or in Plymouth District and Superior Court or work remotely. But Brockton is in the process of building a unified public safety complex with their police, fire, and I believe their IT department as well, which may or may not make sense for us. I think they're in a unique situation being a very different municipality in a lot of ways. But we have previously talked about the potential benefits of a public safety conference when we were talking about 46 Sandwich Road. We have also talked historically about the issues present in terms of the existing site that the police headquarters is on, as well as the limitations of that site for necessary expansion to provide working space for officers. So one of our goals in FY '26 was to begin the police headquarters and/or public safety unified complex feasibility study. And I would like to see us add that to an agenda so that we can incorporate that into the budgetary process, because the sooner we start that process, the sooner we can complete it. As Mr. Malaguti and other members of this board mentioned earlier, the longer we wait to build a public building, the more expensive it gets to do so. These are known problems that do exist and have existed and need solutions. So I would ask that those two items be added to a future agenda in the near future. Thank you.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes, thank you. I also have a couple of items that I'd like to propose for future agendas. This first one, I was planning to present to the board even before I knew that Ms. Jankowski was going to come and speak so passionately about the Pulte project, because I too have been staying on top of what's happening in North Plymouth. I went on the original site visit with the state. I've been reviewing the Pulte application. I too have been trying to wade my way through that traffic study, which is not easy. Attended the ZBA meetings and the planning board meetings. And as a side note, I am personally offended when the developer presents this project as an asset that Plymouth has been missing out on for a long time. So that's not what I want us to discuss. I just wanted to get that out there. But I am really, really concerned about public safety issues. And the traffic and the parking, I saw in the application that they are requesting no visitor parking spaces. And to me, that just says, well, where are the visitors of 163 units going to park? They're going to park on the streets. And that again is going to, and park in front of Carol's house. That again is going to just exacerbate the issue. So I know that we sent the letter expressing our disapproval of this, this process, and I know that the project is probably going to go forward, and we have very little authority over that, but we do have authority over public safety in this town. So I would really like us to have a discussion as a select board to really understand what the risks are associated with the public safety issues that will arise from this project. I think that, you know, if not, if the project moves forward, they're going to leave town, and we're going to be left with public safety issues that really, really concern me. So I'd like to get that scheduled as quickly as we can. The ZBA has another meeting scheduled specifically for traffic concerns on October 20th. I would love to be able to discuss that right after that, after we hear what they have to say. And if as many of us as possible could attend that meeting, I think that would be great too, just to show support to the community and to be able to ask some tough questions of the developers as they present their study. So that's one. The second one is, I'm sorry that Lee has left. One of our goals is to develop a staffing model for the Department of Planning and Development. And as we've been hearing for a number of months, that department is undergoing significant transition with a number of retirements that are happening. And I know Lauren Lind is very capable, and I know that she's got some great ideas for a vision for that department. I would like us to be able to be part of that conversation. I'm really interested in helping to be sure that she has, or we have, the town has, the resources and the staffing needed to really fulfill the requirements of a contemporary planning and development department. We have, the master plan is coming to a close. We have a number of very important committees in this town that rely on the planning department for resources and support and staffing to do very important work. Conservation Commission, the Agriculture Commission, Open Space Committee, all depend on, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a number of others, but they're playing, the department could also play a significant role in economic development if we so chose. So I would love for us to have a conversation about the staffing and the vision and the organization of that group. I don't know if that's something that can happen at the joint meeting that we're planning with the planning department, I think in early November, or if it's something that we should do separately. But I would just think we should start that conversation. I'm sure it's been discussed at certain levels, but I think that if we had an opportunity to hear what the plan is and to weigh in on it, just again to make sure that we have the right resources in place to support whatever the future of that department is, would be great.
Thank you. Mr. Quinto?
Yes, I agree with our colleagues. I brought up public safety complex many times, well before 2 years ago. You know, it's always been a project I'd love to see, so I definitely support that. And now that Mrs. Iaquinto, I got it right. See that? I've been practicing. I met with Deb this week. We had a conversation, and I spoke about the planning department. I know we have a succession plan, and it's nothing to do with anybody that's here, anyone that's taken over, but I think it's time to really look at, you heard Lee talking about understaffing, to look at it and see what kind of staffing we need in that department, because, you know, the planning department is really the same size as it was maybe 20 years ago. I don't know. And the community's growing leaps and bounds, and things don't get done, you know, and I'm not saying they don't, but we really need to, I agree with you 100% that, you know, maybe even add, you know, this is my own little thought, a Department of Business Development and Tourism. You know, we have a lot of changes coming in the planning department. We have Ms. Filson be retiring also. We need to look and see how, I know Plymouth puts in, I think it's almost $500,000 towards See Plymouth, if you will, all of the various, you know, maybe it's time to look at that, look at the foundation, look at economic development. Are we promoting ourselves right? What have we seen in the, what have I seen in the last 15 years in economic development that's actually been done by, say, the foundation, or, you know, years back, we had economic development in the office here, and then the foundation was created. I'm not going to go into that whole story, and I know why, I was there. And so, I mean, I just think at a crucial time right now, we should look at it all and have a good discussion. Maybe nothing will come out of it, but I think if we didn't, we wouldn't be doing ourselves a legitimate favor to the town. You know, do we have somebody out there promoting our town? Somebody going out and attracting businesses? I mean, you know, they say TIFs are illegal or this or that. Well, maybe we have a discount on a sewer hookup. Maybe we have, you know, there's all kinds of things, but, you know, I think it's well worth a docket item and see, and meet Lauren and have her come in and tell us how she's gonna take us forward and what her ideas, because we don't know. I mean, I'm very eager to, you know, I think she can do the job, but I'd like to hear, you know, what her plan and her vision is, because it'll be different, naturally. And Lee, he'll probably be a consultant for the town for the next 10 years anyway, so he thinks he's retiring. What is it, December 5th? And I would like to have a little something for him in the courthouse if management so obliges, and, you know, what we can do. We did it for Matthew, yes. So I'm more than willing to offer my services if needed. If not, I stay plenty busy, trust me. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
No, I'll echo what Select Deb Iaquinto has touched on, and that is the planning department and the future of it. Obviously, we have Lee in his almost 30 years in service to the town in these capacities. So as he makes his way towards his retirement, I have been advocating for, obviously, opportunities to work with Lee to get his impression as he leaves and his advice as he leaves. But the planning department, there's one thing I do know, that over the years, Lee has indicated that it has been trials and tribulations where you're confined by a budget and staffing issues. And at times, you know, our town is staffed at a 1975 level, and it's the year 2025, and we're dealing with many challenges. It is the Office of Planning and Development, and we need to have these planners in place. But we also have to look at the historical district commission, community development, and the planning department, and how they'll interact with this department and other departments in the future. So I welcome that discussion, and also your ideas on tourism and travel and the town's role in that capacity. But I would like to just take this moment to just point out again, over at Pilgrim Hall, the Plymouth Philharmonic has been performing in our downtown over 100 years. Right now they're in southern Plymouth. They are performing at Memorial Hall during the Pops Christmas season, but I would like to see what policies are changing at Memorial Hall that would make Plymouth Phil to be at Plymouth South High School. I think that the Plymouth Phil is a flagship cultural, you know, gem for the South Shore and Plymouth. We really need to do everything we can to get them back into downtown Plymouth, because the ancillary benefits of having the Phil perform, people go in and have dinner and then go to a performance. So obviously we want these activities in our downtown to support the local businesses. Just this past week, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Culturals Council was meeting at the Spire Theater. For Plymouth County, there were all these different towns that had received grants for Mass Cultural, and the Phil was one of them. And so obviously it's being showcased by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and our county in our downtown. And so I'd like to revisit that at some point to find what we could be doing to help them, you know, perform at Memorial Hall. The other thing I wanted to talk about as we get ready for our neighborhood meetings on the road, I did want to have an opportunity to talk about putting on the agenda a discussion of how those agendas would look like in terms of, before we go to the neighborhood, reach out to the steering committee and the town meeting members in that neighborhood to find out what their priorities are, build an agenda off of that, then include in the agenda some sort of action items to follow up. So that would be nice if we could put that at a future agenda for us, and also on the agenda in the near future, if it could be put on there, the discussion amongst ourselves about public comment. We have public comment right now at the end of the evening. I think we should try to make an accommodation at the beginning of the evening, so for people who are wanting to comment on something that might be under consideration on our agenda. We have this agenda, people are looking at it. We don't really hear from people until the end of the night. It might be something to consider so that when residents look at our documentation, I think it's very impressive the town is putting out our agenda online and all the supporting documents, so they're seeing everything we're seeing. So it would be nice in public comment, people could make a comment in advance. And then finally, the one thing I'd like to do is that obviously we have there's going to be some committees that we're going to have to reappoint to because we have some vacancies, obviously the Little Red Schoolhouse. But I have come across this idea of the town has a memorials committee. I'd like to revisit how that memorials committee is appointed. It would be an opportunity to kind of look at how we can expand that appointment process around the memorials committee, because I think that the qualities that you have to have on that board really, are to work with families that are approaching the town, residents and neighbors about memorializing, and I think we should be reaching out to a few people to serve on that committee and how we make up that committee. So it would be nice to have a discussion with the town manager, because currently I believe it's appointed by the town manager. And
It's us.
it's a
Memorial?
select board. Select board
Memorial,
has,
select board.
yeah, so, but I would like to have a discussion on how we're going to appoint to that committee and the qualities and the attributes that we're looking for.
Thank you. Just so you know, Mr. Cohen, the On the Roads is going to be on the schedule next week, so we can have that discussion then. And I agree wholeheartedly with your sentiments on public comment. In fact, in any of the other committees that I run, I always put public comment at the top of the agenda, unless there's an objection. I think we can put that at the top of the agenda next week. It's our agenda.
Thank you.
All right.
If I could
Anything
just, because I know Mr. Cohen has mentioned a couple of times this issue of the Plymouth Philharmonic, and I did have communication with Mr. Goldberg last week about this, and I'm still trying to unwind it a little bit, but the holiday pops, multiple showings of the holiday pops, Thanksgiving pops, the winter pops, spring pops, all will continue to take place at Memorial Hall. There have been some of the classical concerts, which they say are less popular. As you pointed out, were relocated to Plymouth South. And I would say some of that has to do with the cost. We require security now at all of our shows at Memorial Hall. Plymouth South does not. So I think some of their decision-making to move their less popular, less attended shows to Plymouth South has to do with the cost and the fact that they're not selling as many tickets.
Thank you. But I do think we should try, I know the classical concerts, the pops, the holiday performances, but one performance outside our village center is just enough for me to take interest in seeing how, if there's anything that we can engage them in accommodating their circumstance. So I really would like to see them back in downtown Plymouth, and so we'll, I'll continue discussing that with you and your staff and the Phil to see what options might be available.
Perhaps there's a meeting between management and the Phil. Mr. Canty?
So just circling back to, I agree with Ms. Iaquinto's suggestions as well as the suggestions by Mr. Cohan and Mr. Quintal as well, but I wanted to particularly circle back to the Pulte item, because this is an item that they came before us looking for a deal, and then they walked away because we wanted them to come back. with certain criteria to protect the infrastructure that they were going to be affecting. And their traffic study suggestions were, in my opinion, ridiculous. The amount of cars and the idea that none of those residences are ever going to have guests.
No one will ever come to visit.
And they don't even have enough cars, enough parking spaces for all the bedrooms. You know, obviously not everybody with a bedroom, not every bedroom is going to have a person in it. Not everybody that has a bedroom is going to have a car. But they're just setting it up to defer those issues into the surrounding community, and they don't care. So, you know, we sent the letter to the state, which correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever done something like that before to oppose it in an official capacity. But I'd like to I agree with Ms. Iaquinto that we should be doing more to oppose and frustrate that development, which is able to come in because we weren't in safe harbor yet, because of the way that they conducted themselves by trying to come here, work something out with us, and then when they didn't like what we wanted them to do, bare minimum for the residents in that area, they just took their ball, went home and said, we'll force it down. Then they didn't just take that project, they added more units on top of their original ask. So to me, that they have conducted themselves in a way that they are taking full benefit of the aggressive nature, the bull in the china shop nature of the 40B statute. And I think we should do what we can do on our side, even if it is a somewhat futile effort to oppose it, but at least making it more difficult for a developer in the future and less palatable for them in the future, an out-of-town developer that doesn't care about us and is just going to make money and then leave, to do something like that in our community and just create problems, not care about their impacts, and walk away. I think that our residents want us to do that more often, and I think regardless of where it is in Plymouth, this one happens to be not far from my house, not far from Mr. Quintel's house, but I would feel the same if this were in Buttermilk Bay, because I just think that the way that these out-of-town developers come in as bullies and then act, as Ms. Iaquinto said, like they're doing us a favor for building a project in an area that nobody wants, is ridiculous. And I think we should be pursuing all available options to make it unpalatable for them and for other developers to conduct themselves in that way within the metes and bounds of our hometown.
I don't want to go further down this conversation. I will put it on a near future agenda. You're welcome. Any other new business? Any letters? Mr. Canty?
So I got an email on yesterday, 10/6, from a resident, Jacqueline Pomposelli, which was alarming in some of its details. And it seemed to be addressed only to me, so I'm not sure if she sent it to other board members as well. But based on the contents of it, I thought it warranted bringing it up for hopefully some remedial action. So, hi, Kevin, I hope you're doing well. I have also sent this email to members of the DPW, but I'm writing to express serious concerns about the ongoing speeding issues on Rocky Hill Road, particularly the stretch by the power plant where the speed limit is 40 miles per hour. I live at, I will not read out the specific home address, but on Rocky Hill Road, and vehicles frequently speed past my home day and night, but especially in the early morning hours. Over the past few years, there have been multiple accidents along this road, especially between the power plant and White Horse Beach. Just yesterday morning, around 2 a.m., a driver lost control, hit a telephone pole, and then crashed into my parked car and yard several feet down the road. My car is likely totaled, and my yard sustained significant damage. Thankfully, no one was injured, a miracle considering the severity of the crash. Before even hitting my car, this individual snapped the telephone pole clean from the ground. Had my car not been parked outside, the driver could have easily hit my house or a neighbor's. While I appreciate past efforts like speed traps, they are clearly not enough. In speaking with several neighbors over the past 24 hours, it's clear that many of us feel unsafe. We've had close calls while walking dogs, collecting mail, waiting for the school bus with children, or simply spending time in our front yards. This is unacceptable, and action is urgently needed before someone is seriously injured or killed. I respectfully request the town consider the following: install a digital speed warning sign with flashing lights just after the power plant to alert drivers as they enter the residential area, and reducing the speed limit to 25 to 30 miles per hour throughout Rocky Hill Road to better reflect the residential nature of the area. The current measures are not sufficient, and I'm deeply concerned for the safety of my family and neighbors. I appreciate your attention to this matter and hope we can work together to make Rocky Hill Road safer for everyone. Thank you. So, some of her suggestions would require like a speed study and a formal process, which would be more involved, but doing something at a minimum, like perhaps directing for enforcement to be increased in that area, if we could do that, or the digital speed sign. I know we put them in different areas throughout the town, but based on the nature and severity of that accident where a car went through a pole, snapping it in half, and still had enough force to potentially total a car behind it, it seems like there's a significant public safety concern in that area, so.
Yeah, if you could forward that email to me, we can talk to the chief. We don't have a traffic division in the police department, as you
Right.
know, but we certainly can put speed signs. I can tell you, since we've hired our crime analyst, this police department has more data than ever. So they collect data now, they can report out on data. In particular, they enjoy going to precinct meetings to report out on traffic data. So we'll certainly take a look at that, and as soon as data becomes available, we can report back.
I'm forwarding it to you now.
Thank you. Other letters? Old business? Mr. Quintal?
Thank you. I brought up in the past about chip sealing, and I understand how it goes. And first was 1, then was 2, then was 3, and now we're up to 4 neighborhoods. There's petitions going around, and I think I forwarded them to you, and they're going to come in before the board. But my suggestion would be, if you agree, is to have it as an item and have DPW staff here. And it's not to belittle them, but I mean, I'm, trying to explain to people, and I think Kevin has also, the benefits of it. And I explained to them, it's cost effective and blah, 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 in 2 weeks it goes away, it doesn't. It's ruining people's carpets. There's been 2, they're not antique cars, but what do they call those?
Low riders?
Yeah, that have been damaged, and it doesn't go away. So I think we need to have a discussion with staff as to where we keep doing this in residential neighborhoods or we don't. And just, I understand it. That's not what I'm asking them. They've explained it to me, I've explained it to them, but people aren't happy. And I guess the bottom line is simple. I sit here to represent them. It's their tax dollars. If they're not happy with it, let's do what makes people happy. And that's really what my job is, or our job should be. So, I mean, we gave it a shot, we gave it a long shot, but, it's, there's 4 major thoroughways that are neighborhoods that are having problems, so, I don't know if anyone else wants to chime on that, but I think we need to put it on there and let them come in, because it's getting out of hand, and I see the petitions, and not that that's out of hand, but it doesn't have to get to that point. I think we need to sit and chat with them, let them come in, and let them tell you their stories, so it's not me, not that I mind, that's what I do, but I think you need to hear it from the residents.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people approach me in the last week about this as well, so I think it's probably worth us having a further conversation about it. Mr. Cohen?
Yes, I also have been hearing from people on the chip sale, and I think that, obviously it's a new experience for the town. We need to kind of look at the options that we might have at a certain point in time. I know one of the biggest concerns was the debris that's left over weeks and months later. It was explained to us that some of this stuff would be moved into position into the crevices of that car activity will actually enhance the process. But obviously, at a certain point in time, that debris does pile up on the side of a property, and people walk over it and track it around. So I have noticed it from myself, just looking at it from the road and walking over it. So it has become an issue, and we should, talk about it.
Any other old business? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yeah, I have an update on the Community Energy Forum that we've been discussing the last couple of weeks. So we have a date. It will be on November 10th, which I believe is a Monday. It'll start at 6 p.m. and it'll be right here at the Great Hall, so it will be able to live stream it too. So more details to come. We're still kind of fleshing out the agenda and the participants, but it should be a really good discussion that will give us a lot of resources and information as we enter the next energy heating season, which we're all looking forward to, I know.
Any other old business? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All right, it's been moved by Mr. Quintal and seconded by Mr. Canty. Discussion? Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes, we are adjourned.